This is our last video for the interlinear features, and I want to pick up in the menu that we left off from earlier. Now at the top right, there is the three vertical dots. I call this the stoplight menu. Let's click that. Now let's begin with the Start Reading Plan. This is a new feature in Logos 9, and it's so handy. Go ahead and click that menu option. As you can see, Logos has created an instant reading plan for you. It labels it by the name of the book, so it says Read NASB 95, and defaults it to 1 year. Below, you need to set the criteria that you prefer for your reading plan. You can choose all passages, but if you click it, you can create a custom range. We'll spend time on this particular tool in a future video in more details. Then you can choose by default. Notice that you can choose by chapter or pericope. Pericope is more like paragraphs. Then you can choose the default book that you want to use. In this case, we have the NASB 95. Then you can choose the time interval. Notice you have at your own pace, every day, every weekday, and even specify which days of the week you wish to read. Then you can choose the start date. By default, it's chosen today. If we click it, a calendar will appear, and we can choose the day. Notice also you can choose the termination date. By default, it's 1 year. If we click it, we can choose 6 months, we can choose it by weeks, sessions, or verses in the case of a Bible, or even specify an end date through the calendar, as you can see here by clicking the date. Lastly, Logos allows you to share this reading plan not only with yourself, but anyone else that you're involved in faith life. So you can share this with your faith life group. Once you have all the settings, you click Start, and Logos will generate the calendar. Now, we'll look at this feature in more detail later, so I'm going to go ahead and click the X to close this down. Let's return to the menu. At the top right, let's click the three vertical dots. The next option is Show Locator Bar. Let's click that. Notice that you now have this new toolbar located right here that tells you where you are in the book. We're in Genesis chapter 3. Now, over at the right is a navigational set of tools. We have a verse drop-down menu, and if we click it, we can see that we can navigate by article, book, chapter, and verse. So what's going on here? You'll see to the right there's an up and down arrow. This allows you to jump to the next verse or the previous verse, since that's what we have selected. So I'm going to click the down arrow. We're now at Genesis 3:1. I'll click it again, Genesis 3:2. If we click verse and choose chapter, we're now at Genesis chapter 4 once we click the down arrow. If we click chapter and choose book and click the down arrow, we're now in the book of Exodus. So these icons allow you to control navigation. Now, I'll be honest with you. For a Bible, I really don't use this feature often because it's so easy to go to the Bible reference box, type in exactly what you're looking for, and press enter. But if you're doing some reading, this can be handy to navigate through the book. The X at the far right will allow you to close this toolbar. Let's go ahead and click on the X to close that. Now, let's return to the three vertical dot stoplight menu, and let's choose Show Interlinear Pane. Now, this is interesting, and it interacts with the interlinear icon in your Bible. So let's click it. Now, notice as soon as I chose that, what opened up? The bottom pane. But the question is, why did that one open up? If we go up to the top and click here, we can toggle that interlinear pane on and off. You've seen this demonstrated earlier. But if we go over to the triangle to the right of the interlinear button icon, we can see that we have two interlinear selections, and the one below was already selected. So that's the one that was turned on. Now, in my personal opinion, I recommend clicking the three dots and having this disabled. That way, you control the interlinear window with this icon only. And so you can set up what you prefer. If you prefer the inline reverse, check that. If you prefer the bottom, check that. And once it's checked, it's now set for that book. And then you can turn on or turn off by clicking on the alpha omega icon. That's the best way to enable this feature. So let's go back to the stoplight menu and click it and make sure that the Show Interlinear Pane is unchecked. Next, let's click Show Inline Search. And as you can see, we can turn this on or off. Now, we've already explored this feature, so there's no need in working through that. Let's go ahead and click the X to close that toolbar. Once again, click the stoplight menu. Now, the next option is Read Aloud. Notice it says System Narrator. Some books will actually have a physical person read the book. Let's go ahead and click this option.
Now the serpent was more crafty than any beast of the field which...
Now I've paused it by clicking on the pause play button here at the left. Notice that the toolbar shows you the location you're in. There's a rewind button with the number 30, so you can rewind the previous 30 seconds. Then you have the speed. I'm set at 2 times. If you click it, it'll cycle through the various speed choices: 0.75, 1, 1.4, and 2. The X will close the speech toolbar. One of the questions that people ask me frequently is, how do I change the voice of the narrator? I'm going to show you how to change this for Windows and for Mac. For Windows, you need to go to the bottom left and open up your search window. At the bottom left, you'll see a search toolbar. Type in Control Panel. Then click that from the menu. Once you click the Control Panel, up at the top right, type in Speech. You're going to see Speech Recognition, and you're going to see Change Text-to-Speech Setting. That's the one we want to choose. So let's click that. You'll notice that we have a tab that says Text-to-Speech, and mine currently says David. I'm going to click on this and change this to Zira.
You have selected Microsoft Zira Desktop.
So that's what Zira sounds like. Let's go ahead and click OK, and then click Play.
Now the serpent was more crafty than any.
Now you'll notice that the voice did not change, and this is kind of a Windows Logos limitation. So I'm going to shut down Logos, and then I'm going to click Logos to restart. Now that Logos has restarted, let's click the stoplight menu once again and click Read Aloud.
Now the serpent was more crafty than any beast of the field which the Lord...
And as you can see, the voice has changed. So remember, to make changes, follow those instructions and reboot Logos. Let's go ahead and click the X to close down the narrator toolbar. Let's go to the top left and click on the Apple icon, then choose from the menu System Preferences. Then locate the accessibility icon and click it. At the left, click Spoken Content, then at the right, next to System Voice, click the drop-down menu and choose the voice of the narrator. Now let's return to Logos for Mac, locate the 3 vertical dots, the stoplight menu, and click it at the right. Then choose from the menu Read Aloud. Logos will play the voice you selected. Now let's return to the accessibility window and let's change the voice. Click the drop-down menu, choose Fred, and click Play. And you'll hear the new voice. So you do not need to reboot Logos to change the voice in Mac. Let's return to the stoplight menu by clicking it again. The Show Word-by-Word indicator is grayed out because this particular resource does not support that feature. But if you do find a resource that does include it, I have found that to be quite helpful. Print export, pretty straightforward. You click that, and that'll give you instant access to the ability to print and export the text you're viewing on the screen. And there's our text export window. Let's go ahead and close this window by clicking on the X at the top right. Let's click the stoplight menu. Now, columns is pretty handy and can assist you in reading. It turns out the way most people's minds work is that columns can be much easier to read than long paragraphs. Let's go ahead and choose 3 columns. Now, you'll notice that you don't see 3 columns. You just see 1 column, and you see at the bottom right some navigational controls. But let's expand the window by left-clicking and dragging it to the left. So be aware that if you make this change to more than 1 column, if the book size doesn't permit more columns, you're only going to see what the view will permit. Once you change to multiple column view, a few things change in the book. First, you have this navigational toolbar at the bottom. Obviously, a right arrow will turn the page to the right and you'll advance in the book. If you click on the left arrow, you will recede in the book or go to the previous passage. Let's click the stoplight menu again. And you'll notice that there's some additional menu options. We have Show Footnotes on Page. Let's click that. As you can see now, down below, the footnotes are listed below. And these footnotes, you notice, are superscripted with a 1. So here's the 1 at the top. And it says, do not eat from any tree of the garden. In this case, this 1 means every. And that's just an additional insight on this particular word. So the footnotes can be real handy because no longer do you have to float your mouse to get the information. It's right there below. However, if you turn it off, that does give you more room to read. Let's click on the stoplight menu. Notice we also have the Show Reading View option. If you intend to do a lot of reading, I do recommend this view because now you get more real estate to read. Now notice we lost our column view. Now if you float your mouse to the very top, the menu will reappear. It was kind of hidden. Then let's click the 3 stoplight menus And let's click on columns 3. Notice the column view has returned. Think of the reading view as remembering what the settings are, and this will now be remembered whenever you toggle back and forth between the views. In fact, let's demonstrate that. I'm going to click the 3 dots. I'm going to click Show Reading View. We have the 3 columns. Let's click the stoplight menu, and let's choose None on the columns. Then let's click the stoplight menu and choose Show Reading View. Notice it remembers the 3-column view. So they are really 2 separate settings, and Logos keeps track of that for you. Let's go back to the main menu, click the 3 dots, and turn off Show Reading View. Now, there's a couple other features that I think are important to point out. If you right-click on the tab of any book, and this is the tab up here in this area, and the tab usually includes the book icon and the long name of the title. If the tab is smaller, it'll show the tab's book abbreviation. Now, if we right-click on that column, we get some menu choices. We can open a floating window. Let's go ahead and do that. And now the full screen is there. This is almost like the reading view, except the menu remains. If you right-click on the tab, you can then choose Dock this tab, and that puts it back in the layout. Let's right-click once again the tab, and we have Open All in Floating Window. We don't want to do that, but that's great if you want to take all your books out of the layout, keep them from being docked and locked into the program, and then you can move them to various screens if you want to do that. There's an option called Duplicate. Let's click that. Notice that the exact window has been duplicated in every way, except notice the 3-column view popped up. So see how Logos sometimes remembers these settings, and they can surprise you. So if you don't want the settings, go ahead to the stoplight menu and make those changes. Let's click on the X to close the tab. Let's right-click. We can close the tab, and we can close all tabs, and we can reopen a closed tab. This is a really wonderful feature. So let's close this tab. Now, we don't have any books. We could reopen the book very quickly. We can right-click, and we can say Reopen Closed Tab. Notice that it remembered a previous book that I opened up. So that's very handy as well. So if you accidentally close a window, remember you've got that wonderful feature. Keep in mind, many of these options include a keyboard shortcut. So always be mindful of these, especially if it's something that you will do often. It's a lot more easier to do this with a keyboard shortcut than to right-click and choose from the menu. Let's go back to our menu, click on the 3 vertical dots, and you can see that you have the Duplicate this panel option here, as well as the Float panel. Now, copy location allows you to share a link to this book, but you may be confused by the various choices. Let's go through each one briefly. If you click copy location as URL, Logos is copying a web link to the book. Let's see this in action. So I'm going to go ahead and open up my Firefox browser. Okay, we're at LearnLogos.com, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete in the text where the website location is. I'm going to right-click, and I'm going to choose Paste. Notice that Logos is pasting in a very specific reference. Let's go ahead and press Enter and see where it takes us. In this situation, it opened up the Logos web app. Now, I was already signed in, so it went right to it. But if I had signed out, let me go ahead and do that. And let's repaste the URL into the URL box here at the top of the browser and paste that in there and press Enter. It's taking me to a sign-in page. I'm going to click Sign In. I've gone ahead and typed in my username and password and click Sign In. And now Logos will sign me in and actually take me to that passage. Notice it took me exactly to the passage where I was at, Genesis 3:1. If you want to share this link with other people, this is an easy way to do it through a web link. This way, they don't need the Logos desktop, but they will need a basic Logos account to open this resource. Let's go back to Logos. Let's click the stoplight menu. Let's click HTML. Now remember, when you click HTML or any of those other options, it stores the link on your computer's clipboard. I'm going to go ahead and open up Word to see what this link looks like. And let's go ahead and click on Paste. As you can see, Logos has created an HTML link to the resource. This is something you'd embed in a web page. So if you're not doing any web page creation, you really don't need this feature. Let's go back to Logos. Let's click the stoplight menu, and let's click L4. Let's go back to Word to see what this link looks like. Let's go ahead and click Paste, and you can see this link. Now, this link is for internal Logos use only, specifically for personal books. So if you're creating a personal book and you want to create a link to that resource, use L4. Very powerful. I'm going to type in NASB 95 Genesis 3:1. I'm going to select that phrase, and I'm going to choose Insert from Word, and I'm going to choose Link, and I'm going to choose Insert Link, and I'm going to then right-click and paste in the address box my special link and click OK. You'll notice now that it is a hyperlink inside my Word document. And if we were to convert this Word document to a personal book, the link would work. But watch this. I'm going to hold down my Control button on the PC, Command button on a Mac, and click that link. A little warning message will appear. Go ahead and click Yes. And notice what happens. The link took me to the Logos book. So if someone has a desktop application and you want to give them a link, then you can create the link this way, or create a personal book and they can get it that way. All right, let's click on the stoplight menu and let's go to Wiki. Let's go back to Word. Let's press Enter a couple times to get below our link. Let's click Home and click Paste. Now, this is a wiki page link. So if you're interacting with Logos wiki page and you want to include a reference, just click that link and all the formatting has been included to link you directly to that spot in that particular resource. Let's go back to Logos. Let's once again click the stoplight menu and click RL. Now, this is a link formatted for use in a reading list. So let's go to Tools, type in Reading. Let's go ahead and click on Reading Lists. At this point in time, we're not going to show you how to create a reading list. We'll do that in another video. But all this to say is that link that we just copied, you're going to use in this feature. Let's go ahead and click on X to close this window. Let's go back to the stoplight menu and click it. Now, once you get past copy location, what do you have left? In the menu, we have help about this feature. Let's go ahead and click it. It opens up the help window and takes you specifically to that feature that you're looking for. Now, we're in a resource panel, and that's why we're getting help. Let's go ahead and click the X to close this window. Let's click the stoplight menu. We also have discuss this feature in the menu. Let's click that. In a few moments, Logos will take you to the Logos resource panel page. Notice the similarity with this topic and our help topic. So this is a chance for you, if you get stuck or have questions, you can use this feature to open up the Faith Life page and begin a discussion on that feature. You may have to log in to access this page. Let's click the stoplight menu. We have the option here, Show Help Card. And I've clicked it, and now you can see the help card. Now, the help card is designed to give you instant help, very summarized and concise on a particular feature. Once you've read the information, you can click OK, and that'll close the card. I have found over time these cards are kind of in the way, and it results in me having to click more. So I click Don't Show These. So if you want to see the cards, the easiest way is to just click the stoplight menu and show help card for that feature. The last option is close. Before I close, let me remind you the keyboard shortcuts are at the right. So this is a great way to learn what the keyboard shortcuts are for frequently used features from this menu. Let's go ahead and click close, and notice that actually closed down the resource. Wow, we've covered a lot of ground in this menu for the book. Keep in mind that that menu is pretty identical for most resources, but it will change from book to book depending on the nature of that particular book. So be sure when you open up a book you've never seen before, check out that stoplight menu. You may be surprised by some of the additional options that appear. And we'll try to show you those as we continue through the training.